Hi, I'm Glenn and welcome back to IELTS Talk Tips. Well, today, as I see on my list, I'm going to talk about voice quality in this episode 5 of the series. Voice quality, voice quality, voice quality, voice quality, voice quality, voice quality. So many different voices. Well, we're not really talking about those character voices. I'd like to hear your real voice, but that's the question. What is your real voice? Do you really know what your real voice is? And have you been speaking with your real voice at any point of your life? It sounds like a crazy question, but surprisingly, many people at a very, very young age get into a habit of talking from the wrong position of their body, the wrong position of their face. And that becomes normal for them. But as a kind of alternative path in life, what happens to many people if they do something like some performing arts, or maybe they take some singing lessons, they can actually develop a very different voice, usually at around the age of puberty, which is 13, 14 years old, and their voice can go in a very different direction in life. So consequently, what happens is maybe many people in their family may talk in one way, but that new generation talks in a different way, with a different style. I've even heard some very, very interesting examples of many people in the family using a kind of a lazy voice and talking back like this in the back of their throat. But then maybe their daughter called Jessica or Barbara or somebody was a young girl. She took some singing lessons. She worked on her voice, and she's the one person in the family that everybody says has a beautiful voice, as if it somehow happens by magic or something, that everybody else in her family has kind of like an ugly voice, and Jessica has the nice voice. So you see, the decisions that we make at a very, very young age can change our voice, our speaking style for the rest of our life. And of course, voice is also very important when taking speaking exams or speaking tests like IELTS, because although there are some people, and in fact many people on YouTube, that say that voice quality is not important and that accent quality is not important, the bottom line is the people who are testing you from Cambridge for the IELTS exam are human, just like me and you. And if they hear an ugly voice like this and you're talking like this for about 2 minutes, you're going to sound very, very ugly, and probably your IELTS grade will be very, very low. I have some people laughing in the background right now. That's well, it's not really my grandmother's character voice. It's kind of like my witch and grandmother's character voice. I think, witch ladies that fly on a broomstick and put spells on people. So you see, we don't really need to talk like this. We can actually talk in a better way if we take care of our voice. And of course, that will get you a better grade when you're taking like any type of test or doing any type of presentation. But the interesting thing about voice quality is that if you Google voice quality or how to improve your speaking voice, you'll find many, many pages that talk about tone, your voice tone, and your volume, or pitch, the pitch of your voice. But there is something which is very, very interesting and important, which is usually ignored when it comes to improving your voice when you have learnt English as a second language. And that is called vocal placement. It's an extremely interesting area, and even if people do find out about it, they probably shy away from it, because vocal placement is usually spoken about in the context of learning to sing or doing some drama work on stage, some theatrical work on stage. I think theatrical work like acting, Broadway, and so on, or learning to sing. In fact, I can give you a couple of good examples that may be of interest to you depending on what generation you're in. We have a couple of singers, Mariah Carey, who is probably from a previous generation. Maybe some young people have never heard of Mariah Carey. We have somebody from this generation, Ariana Grande, who is a well-known singer. These two singers are both well known for their 5-octave vocal range, but along with that, they are very, very good at changing their vocal placement to sound very different in different types of songs and different types of contexts. So what is vocal placement? Well, I kind of have given you the answer already. Changing the location of your voice. That might seem like a very strange thing to say because you probably think that your voice comes from down here and nowhere else in your body. Down here where your two vocal cords are. In some ways that is true, but in many, many other ways it is not true. This is just where the motor of your voice comes from. But the sound of your voice is coming from your what's called your vocal tract, which goes all the way up your throat, around the back of your mouth, and all the way up through your nose. Your vocal tract is basically empty space, but around that empty space is a lot of soft tissue. This is tissue, skin. Your skin is tissue. And behind that, the skin tissue are many, many tiny muscles. And what happens with people who can easily change their vocal placement, especially singers, great singers like Mariah Carey and Ariana Grande, is that they can easily contract their muscles up and down their throat and around their face, and even some things happening around here, around the back of their nose, to sound very, very different. For example, I've heard those particular two female singers imitating other singers, like Taylor Swift. They're imitating, they're copying. And they do a very good copy because they understand how what's happening with singers when they are using their voice. So what you can do to make your speaking better is monitor where your voice is coming from. Now, interestingly, depending on where you come from, your vocal placement may be very different to people from other countries or very different to English. So this is not just about theatrical stage acting or singing. It's also about just voices from other parts of the world, other locations. For example, I have heard many people from Eastern European countries like Czech Republic, Bulgaria. They talk from down here like this. Jane pani majo beruski. And it doesn't sound good in English anyway. It's probably normal for them. I tend to call it vodka voice. I have heard some people, some parts of America, I'm not going to pick on the American states, but they kind of talk from up here like this, from behind their nose. And although really Americans would never think that they talk from behind their nose, it's kind of, that's what the muscles that are contracting, that's what's actually happening inside their head. Of course, they're still using plenty of space down here, but they're also putting a lot of attention to what's happening behind their nose. So consequently, English people from the UK, Australian people will frequently say that Americans talk from their nose. It's not entirely true. It just means that Americans are putting more attention from behind their nose when they're talking. So if you want to develop a better English-speaking voice, you've got to change your vocal placement. Many, many times people have taken the IELTS test and they've had extensive training in accent reduction and pronunciation, but their grade is still 6.5, 7.0, and these people are really shooting for something much more, maybe 8.0 or even 9.0. And what usually happens is that they will go back to their local teacher with a sad face and complain that they took the IELTS test again and got a very low grade, and their local teacher will say, keep practicing, keep practicing, keep practicing. But usually they will never say, work on the vocal placement, because very often that can be a major handicap depending on where somebody comes from. That can really have an influence in how other people hear them. In fact, there's an interesting statistic here. 38% of the way that people judge you comes from the sound of your voice. I'll say that again. When people first meet you, 38% of the way that people judge you comes from the sound of your voice. Now, although officially IELTS can't judge you, as I said at the beginning of this segment, we're all human. We all make unconscious judgments, and you want to avoid that. Let's talk about some other ideas of vocal placement. I gave you my example of people from Eastern European countries, vodka voice. They talk from down here like this, and the English doesn't sound good. And that's normal. It sounds very strange in English to be talking from down there, but it's normal in that part of the world. American accent, talking from back here around the back of the nose. If you're Japanese, let me try to remember some of my high school Japanese. 私は日本語が少しわかります。でもまだ上手じゃありません. Now, Japanese tend to talk more from around here. And you might think, how can that be? There's no voice tract there. There's no open cavities. Well, yes, there is. There are open cavities going all the way around there, and you can contract some tiny muscles, which would be the muscles, the location of where your voice would come from if you were speaking Japanese. Let's try some Chinese. This time I will do Beijing accent, because Beijing accent is quite strong. 我会说一点普通话，我说的不好. It's coming very much from around back here and up around here. And you can hear it. I think you can hear it. But depending on where you come from, changing your voice to something more fluent can be a major challenge. It can be a major challenge and a major handicap. And the challenge is that it will take your grade down. People from South Asia, for example, South China, Thailand, Vietnam, they will sound very, very feminine when they speak English. Boys will sound like a girl, and the voice can sound weak. It sounds like the person is not speaking with any authority or any confidence. And again, if you're doing any type of presentation, including IELTS, you want to be able to sound that you have authority, that you know what you're talking about, that you are confident. So by all means, get onto YouTube, find some videos on vocal placement. You will learn more about this. Many of the videos will be vocal placement in terms of developing your singing voice, but there are videos on YouTube about just developing your vocal placement for speaking English. Usually they will be titled something like vocal placement for American English or something like that. Rather than vocal placement for just singing, they might be called on YouTube vocal placement for speaking American English or UK English. And here again, traditional UK English, maybe from London, hello, how are you today? It's very, very deep down here, called royal accent. So you can decide which direction you want to go in, more of a UK style of English or more of an American style of English in terms of vocal placement. Or you can be like me, somewhere in the middle between UK English and American English. Okay, that's all for today. Good luck, and I'll see you next time.